So you might have noticed that I love productivity content. And I'm not into productivity content just to always be hustling and working harder, but I'm really into it for thinking about ways that we can save ourselves time and do our work better. And email is one thing that almost all of us struggle with. So in this video, I will share strategies and ideas for helping you feel like you are on top of your email. Welcome to my channel, Lead with Love and Love to Lead. My name is Jess madden-fuoco. So as we begin, I know that some companies have moved away from email for internal communication, and they might use a tool like Slack. But for many of us in the education field, we still use email for internal communication among colleagues, as well as some of our communication with students and families. Email has been part of our lives now for many years, and some of us might just want to ignore it. But as organizational psychologist Adam Grant writes, you can't just ignore email, it's rude. So here are my top 7 tips for how to get on top of your email and to make sure it does not take more of your time than it warrants. Tip number 1, don't use your inbox as storage. So because your inbox is not storage, you have 2 choices. You can archive messages or you can delete messages. I mostly just archive emails in my work email because I have unlimited storage and then they're always there if I ever need them again. Tip number 2, don't use email as a task list. For any email that you can respond to in less than 2 minutes, just do it. So the more things we can deal with and not have to return to, the better. But if you can't respond to the email in 2 minutes or less, then the question is why? So I often find that an email can take more than 2 minutes to respond to if it requires me to take some action before responding. And another kind of email I find that takes more time to respond to is ones that require a sensitive or thoughtful reply. So 2 tips for this. If an email requires some significant action, then put that onto your to-do list and then archive your email. And then when you're ready to spend the time that you need to take that action, then you take the action and then respond to that email. And then for this other kind of more time-consuming email, one that requires a sensitive reply, I used to really try to put a lot of thought into those emails, but what I've realized is that sometimes it's actually better to meet with the person. So what I often do now is email back and ask the person to set up a time for us to talk. So for me, this is really easy because I use a program called Calendly where people can schedule time directly into my calendar at times when I'm available. So you can check out my Calendly video for how to set that up. So tip number 3, start with a clean slate. Years ago, before I had an email strategy, my inbox had thousands of emails in it. I noticed that a teacher at my school at the time, Melanie Allen, seemed to have a strategy for her emails, and her inbox always had very few emails in it, and she never seemed to let any emails fall through the cracks. So I asked Melanie how she did this, and she showed me how to archive all my emails at once. So archiving all your emails at once is really great to do because you don't have to make a high-stakes decision about which emails to keep and which to delete. And then you still can access your emails. You can search for them by a subject or a word that you think is in the subject of the email, or by the sender's name, or by any person's name who's included on the email. So now I'm going to show you how to archive all your emails. So first what you do is you go into your email, and now let's imagine that I had thousands of emails. I would click this box here, and then I would click archive here. So that would archive all the emails. And actually what you have to do is when you have more than one page of emails, when you click that checkbox at the top, it'll actually just say, it'll give you a choice of like just this page or all the emails. So you want to make sure you choose all so it doesn't just archive your first 50 emails. So now you have a clean slate and a fresh start to begin your new email routines. Tip number 4, unsubscribe from email lists you don't want to be on. So my recommendation is to spend the extra 20 to 30 seconds it takes when you get an email from a company, an organization, or a person, and you don't get value from those emails. I recommend taking that extra 20 to 30 seconds and just going to the bottom of the email and unsubscribing. Your future self will really thank you for this because in the future, you'll get fewer unwanted emails. Tip number 5, and I'm terrible at this tip, but what the ideal is to have a couple times a day where you devote to checking emails. I often check them on my phone, or I'll even check them when I'm procrastinating, doing something else. But it really is ideal to devote, 2 20 or 30 minute chunks a couple times a day to email. And I encourage you to think about what times of day are best for this. Obviously, in the morning, there might be some urgent emails that you need to respond to, but I actually find that after school is a good time for me to do some email cleanup because my energy starts to wane after school and it's sort of a busy work task that I can do at that time of day. Tip number 6, avoid creating complicated systems. So a bunch of years ago, I created a bunch of labels in my email related to the different categories of my work. And I would label the different emails. But what I found is that the time that I invested in that wasn't really worth the benefit to me. Since many of us use Gmail, and Gmail is created by Google, which has one of the best search engines in the world, you can always find emails even if they're not labeled or tagged. There are 2 things that I have labels for. One is for appreciation emails I receive from folks, because those are sometimes harder for me to find if I don't remember the person's name who sent it to me or any of the specific content in it. And I also have a label for receipts because those I also find are a little harder for me to find. So I have a label for those. Tip number 7, and I think you're really going to love this one. Tip number 7 is to use email signatures for emails that you find yourself writing a lot. So I started doing this a couple years ago because I often teach courses that have 50 to 100 participants in them. And I find that I get emails where folks ask some of the same questions. So what I did is I created an email signature that said, "Thank you so much for emailing. Check this frequently asked question doc and let me know if this doesn't answer your question." Because then what that did is it encouraged the person to check that FAQ doc, and I wasn't answering the same questions again and again in separate emails. So let me show you how you do this. You click here into this gear icon, and you see how it says quick settings here. I want you to click to see all settings. So then you see how this is on the general tab here. You go down here and you can see all the email signatures I have. So you can see that this is my generic signature that comes up on every email. And that one is set to be the default signature. You see how here it says my signature is the default one, but I have these 3 other signatures. This one is the one where I said if someone emails me about something that really would be better discussed in a meeting, I can use this signature and write, "I would love to discuss this. Can you schedule time for us to talk in my calendar?" And then I have the link right to my calendar that they can click on. And then, as I mentioned, this is a signature for restorative justice courses that I've taught. And it links right to this FAQ doc so that folks can go and find the answer to their question. So let me now show you what this looks like when you're responding to an email and you want to use one of these signatures. So let's go out of settings here and imagine that somebody emailed you and you were emailing them back. You go down here to where it says insert signature and you see this little pen, and then you click, say you want to meet with the person, you click let's meet, and that pops up. So You see how this makes it so easy to not be retyping the same answers to questions, or when you want someone to meet with you, you don't have to look up your calendar link. You just can insert that signature. So I hope you really like this signature idea, because I can tell you this has saved me so much time. So let's review these 7 tips. Number 1, don't use your inbox for storage. Number 2, don't use your inbox as a task list. Number 3, start with a clean slate by archiving all your emails. Number 4, unsubscribe from email lists. Number 5, consider having times of day to check email. Number 6, avoid creating complicated systems. And number 7, use signatures to store templates. So let me show you this in action quickly. So my email right now, it's a Sunday, and I really didn't have much time to check email starting on Thursday. So I have 40 emails here because I just haven't had time since Thursday midday to really be looking at my emails. So you can tell some of them are grayed out. I've read them, but I might have just read them on my phone. So let me show you what I do. So basically, I usually take a first pass where I go through and just get rid of ones and archive ones that I know I'm not going to do anything with. So a bunch of these are listservs that I actually value being on. I like knowing when Cami or Perusal has a new feature, for example, but I don't actually need to read this specific email from them. So I'm going to archive all those quickly. And then there's a bunch more here that fall into that same kind of category. Okay, so you see that's kind of the first pass here, is these are just listservs that I want to stay on, but I don't need to actually read or take any action on those emails. So then the next pass I do is sometimes I email like little quotes to myself. And so I store these quotes and these ideas that I come up with in my notes app. So I would just go into my notes app and I use Evernote, and I would just paste that in there. And then I can archive that email, right? Because I processed it. So then a few more emails there that I don't want to stay on the listserv, but I don't need to take action, right? And then here's my friend Arthur reminding me about an action that I'm supposed to take. So I'm going to put that on my to-do list. Send Arthur a list of our trained folks. Okay. So now I can just go back to that email, archive it because it's on my to-do list. Okay. Now, the rest of these emails, these either require me to take some action or just to actually really thoroughly read the email. So you see how I quickly got my inbox down to 8 emails. And now what I can do is I can go through these 8 emails, and if I have time, I can respond to them right now. Or if it's one I just have to read, I can read it and archive it. Or if it's one that's going to require more significant action, I can add it to my to-do list. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if this video is helpful, give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button and that notification bell so you'll find out about future videos. And as always, please share this video with all your teacher and leader friends, because my mission with this channel is to support leaders and teachers' growth so that we can support our students' growth. And remember, if you lead with love, you will love to lead.